Okay, we're going to begin the October policy meeting, Thursday, October 9th. And thank you all for being here with us. So policies for first reading, we have 3, and these are new policies. The first one is policy 303, the superintendent selection. The purpose of this policy is to convey to the school community that the authority to select an employer superintendent is vested in the school board. And again, this is a model NSBA and MASBA policy. Do we have any questions or comments on that first policy?
Did you state?
I stated the purpose.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have just a question. That wasn't the question. I just wondered is this a new policy or is this a policy that hasn't been looked at since 2022? No, that is the MSBA's language. So we have not had this before.
Right, right. Anything up on your right is referencing NSBA's review. Anything at the bottom of the policy would reference our review. Okay. And hi, John, or Superintendent Magus.
Hi, yes. I wanted to say that I appreciate the school board's alignment with policies related to the superintendent and also the work that's been done in the past few years related to aligning the superintendent evaluation to the MSBA policies. So I think this is just another thing that ensures that we're aligned with best practice for hiring and firing superintendent, as well as the evaluation and other things we've done in the past.
Thank you, Superintendent. And Superintendent Magus is en route to the Twin Cities, so joining us by virtually. So thank you. Any other comments or questions on policy 303? Okay. Then policy 304, again, first reading, new policy to align with best practices with NSBA and MASA. Superintendent contract duties and evaluation. The purpose of this policy is to provide for the use of an employment contract with the superintendent, a position description, and the use of an improved instrument to evaluate performance. I guess I would preface, like all 3 of these, is we, our practices around, particularly with this policy of having a contract, of having an evaluation. So it's not that we haven't been doing it. It's just really formalizing the policy behind our practice. So any comments on policy 304? Okay. And then the third policy in the 300 series then that is new is Administrative Code of Ethics. The purpose of this policy is to establish the requirements of the school board that school administrators adhere to the standards of ethics and professional conduct in this policy and Minnesota law. And it goes through a very thorough list and has the legal references as well on there. Any questions or comments on that one?
I am just so confused as to how this goes.
Member Michael?
Yeah, just confirming we're on the Administrator Code of Ethics now, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
306. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I had a question. Paragraph A states that the administration is authorized to develop procedures, guidelines, and directives to effectuate the implementation. Oh, we talked about this already at our last meeting when it comes to the annual review of the written procedures, guidelines, and directives. And I believe we were going to talk with MSBA to see if they had more clarity around what exactly that meant. Was that able to occur?
I had sent you all the response from
You did, that's great.
Terry Morrow.
I'm going to go look that up right now.
And then, yeah, then with discussion with Superintendent Magus, I think we're following the right, it is all of, maybe he can clarify some more as well, but I did share that response from Terry Morrow with all of you.
Thank you. I'll look at it right now.
And I
Monday, the 29th.
I just looked at that email again from Terry. I think I even have a copy of it here, but my understanding from what Terry was saying is with policy, the policy, which we're going to be talking about in the second reading, policy 305, is that as long as we're reviewing once a year, policy 305, so kind of reviewing the policy once a year was the recommendation from Terry.
And I would add, that's my understanding as well, and I think that we are fine with that. But it's also something that's ongoing on a regular basis too. It's not like we only think about it once a year, but we make sure that we're following it, complying it through our annual review, as well as, you know, the manner in which we work with principals on a daily basis and other administrators.
Did you have further questions on that, Member Michael?
Yeah, I was, Patty, are you able to confirm is 305 an annual review policy then per MSBA?
305 or 306?
Give me a moment to look that up.
306, sorry.
I'm just pulling up the email from Terry Morrow from
Sure.
NSBA.
I don't see it necessarily being an annual review. I guess too, when I was looking at it, when we were discussing it with Terry's response, we can set, like, the annual part is like, I think when we're bringing like the student handbook to you, which is like a guideline based off of policies, or like the employee handbook, or like those types of things, I think is what they're referring to and what I understood from Terry's email as far as the annual part. And then as far as reviewing policies, there are some that must be annually reviewed, and I do have those marked. It doesn't look like 305 is one of them. I can double check that to see if I have a mistake in my tracking form, but he said we can set whatever cycle we want as far as policies are concerned, but like in that line in there is like referencing the guidelines behind it, like the
Sure.
student handbook and those types of things.
And I know we do review the student handbook annually. Do we review the employee handbook annually?
That's a good question.
Okay.
I don't have anyone from Human Resources here, but
Right.
we can, I would think, so yeah. So I don't have the answer for that.
Sure.
Because I don't attend the COW meetings, so
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but,
Totally fine.
yep.
Member Lofold?
Is the employee handbook part of the contract that's in the contract? I don't remember ever passing an employee handbook.
And maybe I misspoke. I'm not sure about that part of it, but I was just using the student handbook as an example of something that we would, and I'm sure there's other things that are examples that would be guidelines associated to policies that we do review every year. So I was under the impression, and MSBA was under the impression that we are following the guidelines that that sentence is referring to.
Any other questions? The email that we received from Patty was on September 12th in response, and she sent it to all board members in response to Chair Morrow's comments. Or, excuse me, September 29th, sorry. Any further questions on 306? This is the first reading. Okay. Okay, policies for second reading, policy 301, school district administration. And again, this is replacing 2055 quality of work-life philosophy. The purpose of this policy is to clarify the role of the school district administration and its relationship with the school board. Further down in regulations, we're going to talk about the deletion of 2055R, that regulation, and the questions that we had around that in the first reading. Any questions under 301? Okay. Don't see any questions, so I'll move to policy 305, policy implementation, replacing 2070 policies, regulations, and bylaws. And the purpose of this policy is to clarify the responsibility of the school administration for implementation of school district policy.
And I should just apologize that my previous questions were related to this 305, not 306.
Okay. No further questions on 305 then? Okay, then policies for review. The first one is policy 416, drug, alcohol, and cannabis testing. The purpose, A, the school board recognizes the significant problems created by drug, alcohol, and cannabis use in society in general, and the public schools in particular. The school board further recognizes the important contribution that the public schools have in shaping the youth of today into the adults of tomorrow. The school board believes that a work environment free of drug, alcohol, and cannabis use will be not only safer, healthier, and more productive, but also more conducive to effective learning. To provide such an environment, the purposes of this policy is to provide authority so that the school board may require all employees and/or job applicants to submit to drug, alcohol, and cannabis testing in accordance with the provisions of this policy and is provided in federal and Minnesota statutes section 181.950 to 181.957. And there was just a legislative change, and I'll let you, Patty, highlight the typo change.
Yeah, this was just it came in our newsletter with the legislative changes, and the only change to the policy itself is on page 18. It was missing the number 1 on within the label of one of the Minnesota statutes. So then along with that, MSBA made a few recommendations on some of the attachments. You might have seen that were redlined, where we took out like extra and or. So they're very minimal. It's not changing the policy at all. It's just cleaning it up a little bit.
And everyone saw those in the attachments. There were a number of attachments with these small changes in. Okay, great, thank you.
Yes, thank you, and I think that just outlines, Patty has been working really, really hard to make sure that, given the enormity of our agendas and what we're trying to cover with the significant review of new policies and legislative changes, not to mention the deletion of policies, I just wanted to give a shout out to Patty for really, really going the extra mile with this over the past couple of months, and also helping us behind the scenes with cabinet and other administrators to make sure things are fully addressed.
Great. Thank you. I was just going to highlight that we did review this policy the last time in January of this year, so we had just recently reviewed that. Okay. Policy 621 then, Literacy in the READ Act. The purpose, This policy aligns with the Minnesota law established in the READ Act and on other topics related to reading. Duluth Public Schools places a high value on literacy as a core component of students' educational journey. The school district is committed to providing evidence-based reading instruction that is consistent with the READ Act, ensuring that students develop strong reading and writing skills. The school district emphasizes a comprehensive, standards-based approach to literacy encompassing foundational skills, vocabulary development, reading fluency, and reading comprehension. This dedication to literacy aims to equip every student with the essential tools for academic success and lifelong learning in all subject areas. And Patty, do you want to touch on or call up?
Yeah,
Thank
we're
you.
going to invite Dr. Osselman and our new literacy lead. He will introduce her to you.
Thank you.
Good
Welcome.
afternoon,
Welcome.
members. I am just here to introduce our new literacy lead. This is Gretchen Karg. She's joined our team about a month and a half ago now, and she was the one who reviewed the changes to the policy. We thought this would be a great opportunity just to introduce Gretchen to all of you.
Thank you, Dale. It's nice to meet you. My last name is Karg. K-R-A-G. Correct. Mhm. So the policy changes are just reflective of the new things that came in the legislation. It's just updates that were made over the summer, and it is following the recommendations of the Minnesota School Board Association.
Great, and just a reminder too, we had the second reading on this and adopted it 12/17 of '24, as this is all fairly new in the last 2 years. So anything you want to highlight in terms of the changes? Any questions from the board?
Most of the changes were just related to some definitions of reading terms, added in some more, another screening window date, and added in more language addressing dual immersion programs.
Member Lofold?
Just a clarifying question. So this is for review, but there seems to be so much added. Now granted, we've now learned that it's all legislative, so that just is, that's why we can put it under review, is because it's not changing the intent, it's just following state statute or new legislation.
Correct.
Right, we're not making those changes. There are state statute changes.
Yes.
And it's not changing the intent. It really is adding to the policy itself.
Correct. There's also, I should have mentioned, they changed the date. There was new intervention guidance coming from the state, but that's been pushed back a little bit. So that is also referenced in here.
Can you highlight where that is? I just would,
It is 6B
okay,
and C.
got it.
Okay. Member Michaelsell, Member Lofold, do you want to shut your mic off? Thank you.
I was also just going to comment that the majority, all of these changes are from the legislature, so we don't really have an opportunity to discuss or hash anything out regarding this. So thank you for coming and introducing yourself and being able to present. I was just curious, out of all of the additions that are here, do we foresee any challenges with any of this? Are we going to be able to implement as the legislature is telling us that we have to?
Well, I think there's challenges in this for everyone, but that doesn't mean they're bad.
Right.
These are definitely areas for everybody to grow as we're getting new science about reading. I would think for the secondary level, they're probably facing the most challenges in this upcoming year. Once we get intervention guidance, there might be some new things that will have to happen, that teams will have to meet and make decisions on helping students read at that level.
Got it. Well, thank you for being here and being part of the team to help rise to that challenge. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Okay. The next policy for review is policy 508, extended school year for certain students with individualized education plans. The purpose of this policy is to ensure that the school district complies with the overall requirements of law as mandated for certain students subject to individualized education programs, IEPs, when necessary to provide a free, appropriate public education. And
This policy is on the agenda for review because I started at the end of 2021, and this was last reviewed in 2022. So now we're getting to where we're getting on our 3-year review cycle. So now we're starting to see policies again that I saw for the first time when I started, and this happens to be one of them. So I'm trying to keep up with their 3-year cycle now, and we're not recommending any changes to this policy, but we do have Director Crane here just in case you had any questions about the policy.
thank you. Director Crane, do you want to come to the front? Thank you. Thank you for being here as well.
I could just make a couple quick comments. This policy follows state statutes. Nothing's changed. We have a procedure throughout the entire school year. We qualify students to come to our extended school year program, and this statute remains the same as it was before. It's just a date change.
Okay. Okay.
I have one in my bag, too. Any questions?
So member Michael has a question?
It was just more of a clarifying, since this is, I think, one of our first, like, every 3-year policies to review. So the process for that, when that comes up on your calendar, is to then send that to the appropriate department chair and director and have them look over it and contact your stakeholders to make sure that there's nothing that needs to be updated to match practice or to make sure that our practice is matching the policy. Is that a correct assumption? Okay,
That is
Turn on my
correct.
mic and say, that is correct.
wonderful. All right, thank you so much. That was my just one clarifying thing.
Yep. And you'll find that with all of these policies, as well as when we talk about the policies for under 3,000 series, that is going to be part of the process as well, as it has been. The next policy is policy 101, name of the school district. The purpose of this policy is to clarify the name of the school district. And again, up for the 3-year review. Any questions or comments on this one? Okay. And then 101, legal status of the school district. The purpose, primary principle of this nation is that the public welfare demands an educated and informed citizenry. The power to provide for public education is a state function vested in the state legislature and delegated to local school districts. The purpose of this policy is to clarify the legal status of the school district. And again, up for the 3-year review. Any comments on that? Besides, we have a huge responsibility, don't we? Okay. Now, policies to be deleted. Policy 1100, public performances by students.
You'll recall when we were talking about the 1,000 series, there was discussion to bring it back to principals for feedback, and Director Lyra did do that, and there were no recommendations. They did not feel there was a reason that we could not delete that policy, so they recommended we delete it.
Any further discussion on it or questions on this one? Okay. So we will be deleting 1100. And then, as we've been doing, we've been taking sections each month, and to consider for deletion, there's 40 policies under regulations in this section, and I'll have Patty speak to it, but they haven't gone out yet to be reviewed, but they will be, and so I'll let you take over from there, Patty.
Yeah, there were a lot of policies in this one where we don't have the new policy yet, so I'm just going to go one by one and read them and give you what our recommendations are, like we have the last two other series that we did. So the first one is policy number 39.
Sure.
Whoops, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, for the public as well, as a reminder for us, that I think it's kind of obvious, but for the public, that many of the policies that are in the 1000 series follow more of a procedural area, so it's more of a guidance perspective as opposed to like a deeper governance policy piece, and so that's where they differ from some of the more current MSBA policies. So even though we are deleting these policies, a lot of the practices still live on in the guidance and structures that we use on an ongoing basis.
Thank you for adding that.
Okay, so our first policy on the list is 3019 investments. We are recommending that we replace this policy with MSBA Model Policy 703 and 705, which we have not adopted yet. So when we're ready to bring those forward, we recommend deleting this policy at that time, but keeping it for right now. Any questions? Okay. The next policy is 3020. Tuition fees for incoming non-residence students. We're recommending to delete this policy as it is obsolete and no longer relevant. Then policy 3025, tuition fees outgoing resident, the same. We recommend deleting that because it's outdated and no longer the way it's handled. Then our next policy, 3030, material fees. And that is covered in the student handbook, so we recommend deleting that policy. The next policy is 3035, sale and disposal of equipment. MSBA gave us a possible cross-reference of 802, which we adopted in August of 2024, so we recommend deleting that policy. Policy number 3041, grants and gifts, developing and managing proposals. We are recommending for that to go through a review and to renumber it because MSBA gave a possible cross-reference to 721, which we haven't adopted yet, but that refers to federal grants. And this policy and 3041R, which is the regulation that goes along with it, is more about our process for grants like in our community. And so we want our staff to be able to review that, to update it to what our current practice is, and then find a new number for those policies.
Okay, we have a question from Member Michael Sull on this one, 3041.
I just wanted to add to, as you're looking for our future actions on this, is that this policy and its regulation are both referenced on the Assistant Superintendent's page of the website under the grant thing. So as we are updating in the future, making sure that we see it there to make those changes.
Absolutely. Mhm. Thank you for that. Our next policy is 3050, funds management. The statute that is referred to in that policy has been repealed and or renumbered, and it no longer applies, so I recommend that we delete that one. 3050, funds management, I recommend that we delete it because the statute that was attached to it, it has been repealed and or renumbered. Then our next one is 3055, purchasing. MSBA said a possible cross-reference for that would be 802, which was adopted in August of 2024. Maybe 725 might also apply to that, and we adopted that in November of 2024. 725R, which is the regulation that went to that, could also apply to that, and we adopted that at the same time as 725. And then 726, we adopted in May of 2025. So we recommend deleting 3055 purchasing. The next policy,
Me too.
the next policy is 3060, local purchasing. Same guidelines, and if I'm misspeaking, if you need to pop in, you just let me know. For the same reasons of 3055 purchasing, we recommend deleting 3060.
I have a question on some.
Okay.
So just looking at the purpose of this policy and some of the information that's in here, it speaks to prioritizing local vendors. And I don't necessarily see that in any of our other policies at this time. But I know that we've had discussions as a board around similar topics. And so I'm just curious if there needs to be further discussion on whether or not this is something we need to add language to another one, if that's the will of the board, or if there just needs to be further conversation on it.
Yeah,
I would say that that is something that we are trying to make sure that we do in practice, but it isn't part of a policy at this point. I know we've had some contact, but basically when we think about our bidding processes, we always are prioritizing our, of course, making sure that it's union labor, if at all possible, and then our second priority is making sure that it's local union labor when possible. But that's something that we're working on.
I think we should keep.
And ensuring that we have in process rather than necessarily policy.
Thank you.
But sure.
Simone was going to add something.
Yes,
Simone was going to add something.
thank you. When I sent this to our purchasing coordinator today, and she does use this document when speaking with people in the district that want to purchase. So it's a valuable document to her, but I'm not sure that it's something that overall needs to be here, but I guess, it doesn't hurt, right, to keep it?
Could we add it to one of the other policies or regulation?
Yes, we could. I think that'd be a great idea.
Yeah.
I like that idea. So let's delete it, but add it, the language. Okay.
So before we delete it, should we wait for it to be brought back in another form? Okay. Okay. Are board members in agreement with that?
Kathy's the only one who uses it.
I think that would be good as well. Thank you.
And I also would agree that we want to hold this one up a little bit more. Yeah, so, thank you. The next, go ahead.
Yep. Thank you for that. We're on to the next policy, 3065, vending machines and relations with vendors. MSBA said a possible cross-reference for that policy could be 533, which we adopted in July of 2017, and also 720, which we haven't adopted yet. And so I would say we wait until we adopt 720 and then go ahead and delete this policy. And then 3065R is the regulation associated with that, and I have the same recommendation for that one as well. Then policy 3095 is petty cash funds. I wasn't able to get clarification on whether or not we still have petty cash funds in any of our sites. So I think we might need to look into that one further before we made a decision. And so I would say if we do have petty cash funds, we might want to consider renumbering it. If we find out we're not having petty cash funds, then we would delete it. But we need to further consider that before deleting. Then our next policy is 3115, monies in school buildings. That one we recommend deleting. Then 3120, safety, Christmas trees. Oh, sorry.
Quick question on that. We recommend deleting because we have a regulation that goes with 3115, monies in school buildings.
There's a
No, I'm asking.
Oh, if there's a regulation, I'll have to relook at that one. There's so many on this list that I just have my note to delete, but I don't have my reasoning why.
It just seems like it's a good process, so I just want to make sure it's being followed someplace.
As I read it, it felt like it was a regulation, and I was very hopeful that there is some guideline or handbook that principals or other supervisors are using to make sure that we're handling money properly in our schools.
We'll look into that more then too, and before we delete it.
Just had this conversation with some clericals yesterday, so, yeah, let's.
So we will not delete for now. We'll review if there's another place for this already.
Okay, then we are on to 3120, safety, Christmas trees and holiday decorations. There was a possible MSBA cross-reference of 902, which we adopted in June of 2024. So our recommendation for that is to either renumber it or turn it into a regulation that is off of 902, because our facilities do share this. They share this regulation every year with staff to follow for safety regarding decorating for the holidays. So I don't know if the members of your committee have a preference of a renumber or a regulation.
It does appear that it should be a regulation. So, and if we already have a policy, 902, where it could go with, that seems to be what would be consistent, but Member Micasell and then Member Lofold.
I guess I have questions about that, because 902 is regarding community use of our school facilities and equipment. And as I read 3120, it's talking about decorations, specifically live vegetation or cut down vegetation that once was live. Like as an example, Christmas trees or swags. And that would be during the day while our children, our students and staff are in the building, not just community members. So putting it into that community-focused policy of 902, I'm afraid that wouldn't be seen by our staff. But I also agree that this seems more like a regulation, that we have fire marshals that have guidance for how to keep our buildings safe that are used by the public. And I would imagine, I don't necessarily have access to it, that we have some kind of safety manual when it comes to preventing fires in our buildings. And so would it be more appropriate to be in one of those locations, either under facilities, like if they have a handbook, like the facilities department, not the facility use policy? So that's where I wanted to have a conversation around that.
Yeah, and we do have other policies around that I know we've talked about recently. I think they were in the 800 series, so it might make more sense to make it a regulation of one of those policy. I would just have to do further investigation to be able to remember what the number was. And so let's keep that up still for consideration.
And that being said, if there's state laws or if there's, guidance from the fire marshal, we don't necessarily have to have it embedded in a policy if it's elsewhere that we all understand that this district needs to be following as well, too, so.
Yeah, and the reason why I was recommending either a regulation or a renumber is because facilities department specifically shares it with all staff every single year to remind them. But like you said, it can just be in a procedure and they can still share it. It doesn't have to be a policy that they're sharing, so.
That sounds good. I think it's important, enough of an issue for safety reasons that in whatever procedure, it is reviewed once a year at least, or with our staff as well, so, and community groups that may use our buildings. Member Lofold?
Yeah, I don't have that much more to add other than what you've said. I do know that our building engineers do use, if they use this or similar, I know, one of the things is we want to get out of the 3,000 series, so we want to find a home for this, and whether it's a policy or a regulation, but kind of my comments would be that I kind of would like a really strong look at what we've got here and what the fire marshal and what safety officers say, because being in the building for as long as I have, and even you probably are thinking about this in your own space, is this a space too that has to follow this guideline? And so is there any wiggle room where some things that are currently on the list might, if they're following a more stringent safety code, that I think now there are a lot of newer updates in some of the things that employees of our district like to use as they decorate, so that they're not compromising this regulation or policy. I just think that, yep, I bet that all of these things need to be adhered to. I know that our maintenance and engineers, they do send it out, but is there any follow-up when we're not following that regulation? So I'm just wondering if there's some give, are there some alternatives that safety people can give when we look at this particular, and I don't think it needs to be in a policy, but yeah. But if it's in a policy, it has more teeth than if it's not, if it's just seen as, our guidelines. So,
Well, regulations aren't just guidelines.
Safety code, because it is considered a legal status, we would want to make sure, I think that there's enough teeth in the legal status of the fire code that we need to make sure we follow that. And I think it's slightly redundant to have it as school board policy when it's already guidance that's given through other code. And I think about other codes like parking lanes, fire lanes, things like that are part of our public procedures that we need to follow that aren't necessarily codified in board policy. But I do appreciate the thoughts around that, Member Lofold.
So we're going to hold off and have it reviewed and most likely brought back as a regulation. Member Lofold, could you shut your mic off? Thank you.
Okay, so our next policy is 3125, Security of Buildings and Grounds. MSBA said a possible cross-reference for this policy could be 806, which was adopted 2/25 of 25, 807, which was adopted of June of 2025, and 903 and 903R, which are currently being worked on. Our former safety coordinator was really working extensively and was really close to getting those ready to be adopted and has since moved to a different position. So we do have others looking at that. So hopefully that will be coming soon. And when those come forward, then I recommend deleting that policy at that time, but not until 903 and 903R come forward. And then there's a regulation that goes with that. And so the same thing, we would look at the regulation when 903 and 903R come forward. Then our next one is 3130, Maintenance and Operation of Plant. MSBA had a possible cross-reference of 806 that was adopted in February of 2025, and 807, which was adopted in June of 2025. So at this point, we recommend deleting that policy.
Patty, I just want to, 806 and 807, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Then the next policy is 3137, memberships in community organizations. That policy seemed to be outdated, and so we recommend deleting that. The next policy is 3150, transportation, responsibilities of principals. We recommend that to be replaced with policy 709. And so when that comes forward, then we would delete that policy. Then the next one is 3155, transportation responsibilities of teachers. This reads more like a process or a procedure and could be covered in policy 610, 710, and 710R, so we recommend deleting that one. And then maybe we wait till, I have delete, but I have it highlighted. Maybe I just highlighted on accident. Then the next one is 3160, student transportation safety policy. MSBA recommended a cross-reference of 709. And so we recommend deleting that when we bring 709 forward. Did John put his, or did superintendent put his, I heard a bing, so I didn't know if he.
Superintendent Magus, did you have a comment or question?
No, actually, the call dropped for a second.
Oh,
okay.
Rejoined it, so I was offline for about 60 seconds or so. Was there a question? I'm sorry.
No, we are reviewing 3160 student transportation safety policy, though, and we're going to still review it because it's recommended to fall under 709, which hasn't been brought forward yet. That's what you missed in that 30 seconds.
Thank you, and I apologize.
that's okay. I just want to make sure we got you in case you had a question or a comment. Our next one is 3180, child nutrition, possible cross-reference 533, which was adopted July of 2017. This reads more like a procedure, so we recommend deleting it. The next policy is 3185, child nutrition commodities. MSBA set a possible cross-reference of 533, which was adopted in July of 2017. Also reads more like a procedure, so we recommend deleting that one. Then 3187R, internet use. When we went to our 524, I think it was 524 policy, I think we just missed the regulation. But 524 needs to be looked at too. It's up for a review, and so I think we just wait and replace it and delete it when we bring 524 forward again with legislative changes. And then a lot of these ones coming up are technology ones. The 3189 software, copyright management, 524 is a possible cross-reference of that. And then 3189R, technology, software, copyright, and hardware management. Same thing, 524. And then the 3189.2R, employee use of district license software, possible cross-reference 524. 3190, copyright policy statement, possible cross-reference of 524. And then 3190R, copyright, possible cross-reference of 24. So we recommend keeping all those until we've had a chance to review 524 with legislative changes and then bring them all forward at the same time. Then our next one is 3195, disposal of school district property. Might be covered in policy 802 and considering deleting that one. Recommend deleting that one. And then 3200, unauthorized installation, construction, school district property, possibly covered in 802 or 904, and recommend deleting that one.
Sorry.
That's okay.
You're talking so fast.
Yeah, I'm
trying to look at my notes.
I can slow
We
down.
just did 3195, just prior to this one, and that's disposal of school district property. And it did seem to be outdated, although there was one statement in there that I couldn't find in any of our other current policies. And that is all property sold shall contain a deed restriction prohibiting the property's future use as a school or other early ed to 12th grade educational facility. I know in the past that's been a standard that the district and the school board had maintained in past decisions about land sales, and I couldn't find that in any of our current policies. So I wasn't sure if that was something that should be an overarching all the time, or if that's something, or policy and stand, or if that's something that we will consider for every future individual property sale.
And I had that same question, and I do recall it has appeared in property sales consistently, but I felt pretty strongly that there should be a policy with that language in there for the future.
Superintendent Magus, I think.
Superintendent Magus?
Yes, thank you both for catching that, and I agree. I think that it's a practice followed in almost every school district that I've ever encountered, and I think that it is something we've relied on, and it's been something that's been kind of a focus for the public, and I think it's important when we consider the enrollment of our students and how that affects the overall finances of the district and the placement of the district as far as as an opportunity for our students in the community. I think it's important for us to give that further consideration of where that can fit within policy or regulation at the very least.
Sounds good.
So
keep
we'll
that one.
hold off on that, and maybe it would fall under policy 802, maybe not.
Yep, we'll look into that.
I'm just shocked we don't have that policy. I'm so glad you researched to see that we didn't. I would have thought that we have a standalone policy.
This was the policy, 3195. Yeah, this was the policy, and we follow the 1,000 series until we delete or add or change the numbering. So we have had a policy. It's just, it hasn't fallen under the new numbering, yeah, so, thank you.
Then our next policy is 3200, unauthorized installation, construction, school district property. Might be covered in policy 802 or 904. Recommend deleting it. Any comments?
Quick question. So one would assume that anyone who's going to install something or construct something in one of our buildings or on one of our properties, there is some kind of approval process that they would have to go through, right? So I just wanted to confirm that we have a process in which there's an approval by someone who the board has, given that ability and authorization to do.
Yes. I mean, nothing would be built in the district without school board approval. So we would definitely bring it here first. So you're correct. But do we have it written down somewhere? I mean,
We can look into that
We'll
one
look
too
into
before
that,
we
but-
delete.
I mean, I'm just assuming that there's a process somewhere that in order for anything to happen, there's probably different layers of approval that and I agree, this policy probably doesn't need to exist because of all of those other layers of approvals, but just wanted to confirm that we have that in place so that
yeah.
we don't get
Yeah,
back.
I think any conversation would start with the school board if we were building anything. As with this building and whatnot, there was a major process that involved there, so.
So we are not going to delete it yet. We're going to review it more. And I seem to remember way back sometime, we were looking at new signage for a school in the district I was involved with. And yeah, there was a lot of hoops at that time.
Yes.
We needed to go through. We couldn't just find someone we wanted to build a sign. We tried that, but I wasn't on the board at the time. Okay, we'll review that.
Can I add a comment?
Member Lofold?
Just when you're reviewing this, and looking at policy 802 and 904, just with my lens of having been a teacher in the district, I wondered where the policy is that our classroom would use for this same kind of construction. I'm thinking of like CTE classes that are asking to build, storage sheds within our properties, and they just work through the classroom teacher. Or I think about, as a high school theater director, I at times built things and kept them. And, between storage or an extension onto the stage that we use when we need extra performance spaces. And I do know that there was a time when this policy prohibited the ability to add that extension on the stage and I think about what currently is happening with the restoration of the Denfeld organ and some of that, the necessity of some things being, it seems to me those policies are always handled by facilities. And so what's in facilities process that we just might need to reference facility process or something, because I think some of those things are done that way, but just, I don't know where that policy lands, but sometimes teachers probably should know that there's a process when building things, like me.
Thank you. Good input.
Can you speak to that, please?
Yes, John, we're going to look into, excuse me, Superintendent Magus. We are going to be looking into it. Everything does start with facilities. If someone does want to put a shed up and it's built by the CTE students, it would have to be approved by facilities first. Whether that language is,
Thank you, and excuse me, Executive Director of Business Services and Finance and Operations.
I'll stop there.
Okay, so we are going to do further work looking into that one as well. Like Superintendent Magus started when these are a lot more complex than the ones we were bringing before. And so that's why we're having the discussion, and that's why I didn't redline them in the thing, because I knew there was a lot that we still had to work on. So there's a lot of work to do in this series. So thank you for the discussions as we've been going through it. So our next one is 3205, repair of vehicles, equipment, and tools. Might be covered in policy 802, so recommending to delete that one.
Okay, I'll ask. Do we have, what is the process if someone wants to get a car fixed by some of our kids in our
Right.
classes?
Can I look at 902 before we do anything?
802, yeah.
Or 802, excuse, 902?
I don't know where I am now.
Yeah, you're right there. You're doing
So-
well. Right there, 902.
You want to review,
I do.
okay.
Yes.
And I think that, I had a question about this one too, because I had a tour of Denfeld this summer and learned about cars being donated, and that's what popped in my mind when I read this
Yes.
policy as
And
well.
an auto shop does repair.
yeah,
So I'd like to look at it.
Okay, so we will further review, I think that one, was that one 3205, repair of vehicles, equipment, and tools? And then, how do you feel about 3210, use of district equipment, materials, tools, and facilities? I have on there that it might be covered in policy 902. Do you want to take more time to review that one as well?
Yes, please.
Okay,
The only things I had on that is that majority of that's probably covered in our blended learning form, especially when it talks about like Chromebooks and computers. I mean, I think it was originally written in the 90s, so we didn't have Chromebooks and computers. There's probably people like taking the big, huge PCs home. There was a line in there about not using district vehicles for personal use. So, and with the examples of personal banking business, coffee breaks, lunch, and shopping. And I didn't necessarily see that being prohibited in any other policy, someone using a district, van or other, not being able to use it that way. So I just wasn't sure if we needed to make sure that was written somewhere else. But it sounds as though we're going to review it even further, so.
all right. And then as we continue on, we have 3 left in the 3000 series. We have 3215, review of finances, possible cross-reference 703, which we have not adopted yet. So we recommend replacing it with 703 prior to deleting it. Then 3220, fixed asset inventories, same possible cross-reference of 704, which we haven't adopted yet, so the recommendation is to replace it before deleting that, along with the regulation with the same title, fixed asset inventories, replacing it with 704 before we delete it. So as you can see, there's a lot of them that we don't recommend deleting yet. I don't know, do you want me to go through and confirm which one we actually agreed on deleting?
You know what, I actually was going to ask you to do that, and then I felt like, because there's 40 either regulations or policies, it might be helpful to, I mean, for now, for us, though, we can just check our notes, but to even do just a handout that has the number and then
Okay.
delete, just kind of as a, not to make more work for you, but that just might be helpful, because there were so many policies, and there's a lot of movement with them. Would that be helpful for her to just go through quick and? Okay, thank you so much.
So you want me to verbally do it now, or no? You were just asking, verbally, do
Yeah.
both? Okay. And then if you're, seeing something or I'm saying something and you're like, no, we had a discussion, just remind me. So we're recommending for deletion 3020, tuition fees for incoming non-resident students. 3020, tuition fees for incoming non-resident students. We're recommending for deletion 3025, tuition fees for outgoing residents. We're recommending for deletion 3030, material fees. We are recommending for deletion 3035, sale and disposal of equipment. We are recommending for deletion 3050, funds management. We are recommending for deletion 3055, purchasing. We are recommending for deletion 3130, maintenance and operation of plant. We are recommending for deletion 3137, memberships in community organizations. We are recommending 3180, child nutrition for deletion. We are recommending 3185, child nutrition commodities for deletion. And those are the policies we will be recommending for deletion at this time.
Um, 3155. What did we decide on that one?
You are correct, 3155 for deletion as well. Thank you for catching that. And it's titled Student Transportation, no, 3155 is Transportation Responsibilities of Teachers.
Okay, excellent. Any questions then on any of either the deletions or the other ones we're holding off on at this point? Now, at the board meeting, we would have the ones for deletion highlighted, and I would state that we are in review of the probably 30 other policies that we started a discussion on. So I'll give that update when we do this section of it. Member Lofold?
That's exactly the question I was going to ask, except for just, so are we pretty confident, Secretary Paquette, you don't need us to look any further into these 11 that we are going to delete? We're pretty confident we went through it, and we've got either the policy that we've already got or that it's outdated. We don't need to, because this is only our first look at all of these, but I'm pretty confident, but I just want to know the process so that we can kind of then focus on the rest that we haven't. Will that become our work for the next couple months, is to stay in the 3,000 series? So,
So as we've been doing with each of these chunks of 1,000 series is Patty has actually done the homework on it already for us. And so when she comes and goes through them and makes these recommendations for deletion and then lets us know which policies, so on our own, we can double check that if we want. Or in this case where we have a large chunk that are still to be reviewed, she brought them forward with that intent that many of these would still be reviewed, but wanting us to be kind of aware of the scope of this series, because there are so many that fall under this. Yeah.
Did that answer your question, Member Lofald? Or did you want me to clarify? So yes, I feel confident of the ones that we are going to be deleting, that they've either been in another policy that we've already adopted, or they're somewhere in a procedure somewhere. So I feel confident about that. And then as far as going forward, I am not anticipating them all being brought at once. This is a huge undertaking and will take a lot of staff time. I hear Superintendent Magus, so I'll let him speak on it.
Superintendent Magus?
Yes, I would just reiterate what Patty was already articulating, that this is, we want to take this on in the degree that we're able to, but we also don't want to overpromise and underdeliver on what we can do. We want to make sure that we're doing this as the board wants as well, in a very thoughtful manner. And I appreciate the cadence that we've had so far, but I would say it's probably somewhat exceeding capacity as far as our ability to make sure that we're able to digest this quite as quickly as we hope to. So we might have to slow the pace just a little bit, or maybe take on half of 1,000 series or something like that as we move on. But I do appreciate this work, and I think it's important that we continue to proceed.
Yeah, this was a huge lift to bring this series that has just, a lot of staff input needed and review, so, yeah.
And as we go forward, it's going to continue to be like that, because we're going to be getting into like student things, and so they're just a lot more complex than those original series that were a lot more straightforward. I do want to celebrate our successes, though.
Yes, I was hoping you would. Go ahead.
Like, you have done tremendous work. After the next school board meeting, when you approve policy 301 and 305, you will have deleted the entire 2000 series policy. Like that series will be gone, and we won't have to worry about those old policies. So pat yourselves on the back for what we've done so far. We only have a few stragglers in the 1000 series, and I'm hoping in the next couple months we can get those cleaned up. And even though this is overwhelming and we went through a lot of these, I felt in the conversation with the first, when we brought the 1000 series, and I didn't bring them all forward at first, I thought it was important to bring them forward just so we could have the discussion, because then we all can see things in these policies that other people might miss. So it's nice to have that rounded conversation around it. And so even though I knew a lot of these we weren't going to be deleting, I just thought it's good to have the conversation. So that's why I brought them all forward, even though I knew we weren't going to be recommending a lot. But we're still getting a lot deleted. And we're doing it in, it's going to be a steady thing, but we've done a lot of work so far, so thank you. Thank you.
And I think it gives us a good sense of, again, as we reviewed them before this meeting and as we talked about it at this meeting, just the number of different staff that are involved in reviewing our policies and providing us guidance before we actually move to adopt them. And so this was a good series to really see that, because really all of them will involve so many different staff to review, so. So thank you for the front end of the work on it, Patty. Any other questions or comments on the 3000 series?
I just want to say thanks as well, and thanks to the board for allowing me the flexibility to head down to my legislative meeting down here. But I recognize this is a huge lift, and I was reflecting on this as I'm driving and listening, that really,
But drive
throughout my
safely.
30 years of education and probably 12 or 13 at the district level, this is probably it does definitely represent the most amount of work I've seen done on policy in all that
All
time.
right.
So I also want to say thanks to Patty, thanks to the administrators who are working on this, but also thanks to the board for taking this on and really going deep and thoughtfully updating our policies.
Thank you. Okay, the last item then is the regulation, which is informational, deletion of 2055R, quality of work-life rules, procedures, and guidelines. And this is the one that we had questions about, QSC being covered and QLT being covered in the DFT contract. And it is, and we, so we can move forward with deleting it. Any further questions from the board on that? Okay. Okay.
No, just a thank you to Terry Morrow, because he did send back some information. Wasn't that in that email response, or was that you? That just,
Terry Morrow was first, the earlier ones. It was Patty for this one.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I actually take that back. He did share just what other school districts might be doing, but you're right on that. Okay, but thank you, Patty, for making sure we had the other language on it. Anything else? Okay. Okay, the Thursday, October 9th policy meeting is done, and we look forward to discussing these reviewing and discussing them at the regular board meeting.